Hello to our beautiful viewers and listeners. Welcome to episode 89 of the Late Challenge podcast with me, Paul Cope, and another star guest appearance from Mo Stewart. And while we love to have Mo here, today it's actually in really sad circumstances, so a bit of a somber start to the show. For those of you who have followed us for a while, you'll know that Robbo has had a close relationship with his nan and looked after her for many years. And you also know she recently had a fall, and despite lots of great care in hospital and him looking after her the best he could, she's been deteriorating the past few weeks and sadly passed away yesterday. So that means Robbo obviously is not with us today. And he was with her when she passed and obviously couldn't do the show. So if you've been thinking of sending him a little message of support, and I know many of you have, so thank you for that. He does really appreciate it. But if you've been thinking of it and you haven't done it yet, or if you've already sent him one and you would like to send him another one, I think now would be a good time to show him a bit of love. And we were chatting about this before we started. It's always very difficult in these sort of circumstances to crack on and do a show about nonsense, which, as you know, this show is about. And while we're all thinking of Robbo and his nan and sending both of them our thoughts, love and best wishes, as always with TLC, the show must go on. So we are very grateful for Mo stepping in to co-host again in very difficult circumstances. And we are going to crack on. So as I say, send whatever wishes that you can to Robbo. He will be back soon, but understandably, we thought, well, I thought he should take a break either way, actually, when his nan still wasn't well over the weekend. And look, to follow that up while we're talking about some sort of the somber side of this before we get stuck into stuff, you may have also seen recently that there's a bit of a campaign for Zoe's Place in Liverpool. If you live in or around Liverpool or follow any Liverpool related content, I think you'd probably struggle to have missed this. So you might already be aware of this, but if you're not, there's more sad news that Zoe's Place in Liverpool has announced it will need to close down if it can't raise enough funds to relocate. If you're not aware, Zoe's Place is a baby hospice that supports babies and young children who have complex illnesses and disabilities from birth to age 5, and they support the kids and their families through really challenging times. So I think those types of charities, I know charity can be a complex topic for many people, as lots of things are on the internet these days, but I'd struggle to find anyone, I think, who wouldn't support a children's charity that supports sick kids and their families. So there's already loads of different fundraising events going on, with everything going on behind the scenes here. Obviously, we haven't had time to look at how we can get involved. So I just wanted to share the message, help to raise awareness, and say, if you are in the position to help, and I know many people aren't at the moment, this is a difficult time for many people, but if you are in a position to help and you want to support a local charity that plays a huge part in the community, we'll put the link to their donation page. I just looked it up earlier to find the direct donation page on their website. We're going to throw in some money and do what we can to help as well. That's going to be underneath this episode. So if you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast, look for the link underneath. If you don't donate through there and you're seeing it somewhere else, get stuck in there, do whatever you can to help.
One thing I would say about that as well, it's one of those situations where time is very much of the essence, because they have got a finite amount of time to raise this money. So if you aren't in a position where you can donate, spreading the word is really important, almost as important, because the wider the reach we can get on all of these events, then the more chance we are of getting that money to come in. So if you're on social media, just search the name Zoe's Place and there'll be countless different fundraisers that have sprung up. People have just really come together on this in the way that Liverpool does really, really well. So if you are able to donate, please do. If you can't, please do just spread the word as far and wide as you can.
Yeah, great point, mate, and well said. Yeah, absolutely. There are loads of, actually. I've seen a few events. Hot Water Comedy has put a couple of events on. So if you want to, rather than give money, if you want to go to support an event and do it at the same time, give money that way. The Anfield Rap were doing something with Hot Water, I think.
Yeah, so it's going to be a day with Jamie Carragher. Adam Rowe, the comedian, is getting involved as well. So I think it's 12 till 4, Saturday, 26th of October. But yeah, you can. I think tickets are around £30, but any donation that you make to it will be greatly received. But it sounds like it's going to be a fantastic event, that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, get stuck in if you can. And as Mo says, if you're not in a position yourself to throw in some money and help, then spread the word, because you never know who out there has got deep pockets and may be able to help in bigger ways than the rest of us can. And yeah, as I said, it's whenever we have a somber start to the show and we're talking about difficult topics, there is no good way to segue into what we're going to talk about. So we'll just jump in with the no smooth transition at all. And it's amazingly considering it's only mid-October. It's been another week without Premier League football and another international break, which this always amazes me. Every year, you get through. You have all these chats about how many games everyone plays and how much football there is, and you're like, I'm sure there's more international football than there used to be, and I'm guessing that's true, isn't it? Because now it's the Nations League and all that stuff.
It feels like it's true. I mean, I think when I used to remember it as a kid, there would probably still be a couple of winter international breaks, but I don't think what there was is every 2 games in every break. I think there used to be 1 game in a break. So you'd maybe between the start of the season and Christmas, England would play, or the international teams would play 2 games, but now it's 6. And it's like the relentlessness of it. There's 1 in September, 1 in October, 1 in November. So every time you're just building up a head of steam, oh no, you got to stop again. And for people who are kind of getting used to football, so my girlfriend, she had no real kind of concept of football before she met me, and now she's having to kind of get the crash course in it all. She was very confused this weekend. She was like, "So wait, Liverpool aren't playing?" I was like, "No." It's like, no Premier League teams playing. No. So it's England. It's like, yes. It's like, but wasn't it the same last month? I was like, yes. It's like, is it? And I was like, and it's happening again next month. She's like, what? And I was like, yeah. So when you come to see it through those innocent eyes, it sounds even more ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I start talking about this, I'm pains as a middle-aged man to be like, I know this could work with any gender talking to any other gender now. This traditionally would be man talking to woman back in the days when it was mainly men going to watch football. But these days it could be anybody, as I say. So please don't take this as a sexist comment, because it isn't. But in my situation, talking from my own experience, those conversations with my girlfriend are always hilarious, because she's got no interest in football. Yeah. And when it's like, because it's like it builds up all year, doesn't it? Because it's like, it's a really important game this weekend. You're like, okay, so explain that to me. It's like, it's the Premier League. Okay, so Liverpool are playing Manchester City. Okay, great. I'm interested. I love you. I'm interested in it as well. Tell me about it. Okay, this is what that is. Great. Okay. And then you get to the Wednesday, like, okay, babe, it's another big game this week. Like, okay, is it the Premier League? No. This is the Champions League. Okay, what's that? Well, this is where Liverpool play Barcelona, and that's big, so I've got to watch that as well. And she's like, okay, Barcelona, that's in Spain. I'm like, yes. So in this competition, we play teams from other countries. I'm like, okay, right. And like, okay. And then next week, there's a game against this team. It's like, well, they don't sound very big. Like, no, they're from a different division. Yeah. In Spain? No, in England. But in the Premier League? No, not in the Premier League. In the Carabao Cup, an energy drink. Yeah. And then we get to the internationals, and it's like, yeah, so in this one, I literally went through this with my girlfriend about 6 months ago, and I'm like, writing it out on paper. And it's like, so in this one, like, the other way for Liverpool, all the lads are from different countries. Well, then they go and play for their own countries, and the countries play each other. So then, like, Trent can play against Virgil. And she's like, yeah, we're going to have to, like, like, one step at a time. Do you know what I mean?
Well, this is it. There are some things that I know it's probably not worth my while to explain, because number one, I can end up confusing myself, and number two, this information, it will not be retained. So it's just kind of like on a need to know levels. But okay, to kind of counteract anyone out there who is thinking it was sexist or anything, I actually went to a football game with my sister on Thursday. So there are women out there who are very much into football.
Oh, 100%. So, my sister as well, who listens, is one of those people who would not need this explaining to her, and would explain it to men who'd be like, what are you talking about? And we weren't actually I wasn't going to talk about international football, but you consume far more of this stuff than I do. This is literally where I got to. I forgot they were playing, and then I saw they got beat. And then on Sunday, I literally had nothing to do. Like, I decided, because I've not been in like great like peak health, so like I'm just going to rest, coughing and spluttering all week. And And I was literally sitting on the couch and we'd been watching movies. Literally one of those couch days. I love those days.
Yeah.
And then my girlfriend was like, I'm going to go and do something else for a bit. And I was like, okay. I was like, the England game's on. So I put it on and I literally could only get through about 2 minutes of it before I went, this is shite. I just turned it off again. But you went to the shite of the two games.
Yeah. So I was doing a project with the FA over the summer where I was talking about my England fandom, which is basically started from when I was a kid. And frankly, England and Liverpool were the only two teams I could actually watch on telly. So I kind of got hooked in that. And through different stages of ups and downs, I've kind of stuck with them since. But anyway, part of that project was the end game was they gave me tickets to a game. And so I took my sister to go and see England against Greece, thinking I'd get to see a Costa Simicast masterclass. And then, of course, he was ill and didn't play. Wasn't even on the bench. But it was fascinating for a lot of reasons, actually, seeing an England game up close. And seeing that game in particular, because Lee Carsley had decided he had this brand new master plan of an idea that they were not going to play with a striker. We're just going to have loads of players who are kind of good attacking players. We're just going to throw them all at the top end of the pitch and let them work it out for themselves. They did not work it out for themselves. Greece, as a matter of fact, were the ones who worked it out. And you might know that England lost that game to Greece. Greece won for the first time ever. But Greece actually scored 5 times. But 3 of them were offside.
I heard this.
And where we were sitting, there was like literally the partition between us and the Greek fans was there. I was right on the border, and there were a load of Greek fans beside me. And the first one, I could see it was offside from where we were sitting, and they were all celebrating. And I kind of just went to them, calm down, lads, calm down, lads. Me cockily thinking, well, you know what? They're going to get to celebrate a goal. It's not really going to count. And then obviously when they did score, what happened? They all did the same back to me. But we had a good laugh. Like throughout the whole game, we were just kind of like bantering each other. And yeah, it was one of those situations where it got towards 10 minutes to go, and then you're thinking, no, Greece are actually going to win this game. And then England equalised. And I was kind of a bit embarrassed because like they don't deserve that. And then of course they didn't win it anyway because Greece went up the other end and scored in injury time. But it was just like, yeah, that was the right result. And at the end of the game, I went over and shook all their hands. I was like, yeah, well done, fair play. But yeah, it was one of those weird situations where everyone outside was just talking about, oh, it's shocking and a performance. Oh, I can't believe it. I was sitting there just thinking, well done, Greece. Like, fair play to the Greeks. They turned up and they really did. They really earned that win. And then you kind of look back on it and you think that everything involving England, there is no kind of calmness to it. It's extremes. Yeah. They're either going to win it all or they should all be drug out into the street and shot or something.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? That like, sorry, I'm getting distracted because I've just realised Robbo usually looks at the comments, so I've just opened them and there's many really nice comments for Robbo and his nan. So thank you. I'll pass them on if he doesn't see them. But on the England thing. It's funny I wasn't going to talk about this because I am actually fascinated by it. I've been watching Lee Carsley interviews and just baffled by it really because like I remember when I first heard he was under 21 manager thinking he'd be shit because you've got like, and I mean it's funny we talk about prejudices and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like think about the prejudice in why do I think he'd be a shit manager because
he played
the
for
way
a
he looks for a shit Everton team. So how could he be as good as Pep Guardiola? And so I remember someone saying, it might have been someone commented through this show, watch his under 21s team, they're unbelievable, and he had all these kids playing this phenomenal football. So when he got the chance, I'd heard that, I was like, he could be good, you know. And then obviously he started off well and there's people like, oh, look at the football he's playing and blah, blah, blah. But it's funny, this happened in the summer with Southgate. I don't know what it is about whenever anyone gets appointed the formal England manager for a bit. Like, they just lose their heads. It's like, we've got all these boss players, so the best thing to do is play them all. And you're like, how is that the best thing to do? Like, even going back to the golden generation that we've witnessed. And it was like, well, it was like every manager had no choice but to play Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, Beckham. It was like, you have to put them all in your team, figure that out. And you're like, okay, there isn't a formation that fits all of those players. Well, you've got to play them because they're your best players. And you're like, well, at club football, we don't do that, do we? No. We don't just play the best players regardless of the position. We find a system that works, and we play players in a place where they perform well. And it's mad that Carsley got swept up in that. Like, I wonder what he'll do to. And literally from the summer, I was like, for fuck's sake, we've talked about this in the past. Like, even Gary Neville and people like that were getting swept up in it. You can't not play Foden, okay, but you can't not play Bellingham. And like, okay, well, they play in the same position, so well, we're gonna have to play 2 number 10s then. You're like, okay, well, now we've got no pace because neither of them are quick. Yeah, well, okay, well, you can't not play Harry Kane. Okay, well, now there's 0 pace.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, the only way Harry Kane can play well is with pace around him. Well, you've got to play Saka. You're running out of players, lads. Well, you can't not play Trent Alexander. Like that. All I heard was Neville saying, "Well, it's a crime if Alexander-Arnold can't get in the team." And even as a Liverpool fan, I was like, "He can't play in this team. Why?" Well, in Liverpool, the team is built around him at right back. He doesn't play as a right back. How long have we talked about this? Like, to call Trent a right back for Liverpool is just, it's like you get under the trade description. Do you know what I mean? And so when you see Carsley coming in and being like, well, I'll just play them all and see how that goes. You're like, I can tell you how it's going to go, mate.
Badly. The funniest thing about that as well is after the game, he actually admitted to say, oh, yeah, we did it for 20 minutes in training on Wednesday and we thought it looked good. I was like, wait, 20 minutes?
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
You got this brand new system and you're going to trial it for 20 minutes. You'll be like, yeah, that'll be fine. Like, I bet when the Greeks heard that, they were like, you cheeky bastards.
Yeah.
Is that all you think about us? Is that you can just throw it all together? And speaking about Trent and his playing the right back, it was funny because my sister's a Leeds fan, so she doesn't watch Liverpool anywhere near as often as I do. And there were a couple of times in the game when she was just like, why is Trent all the way over there? Why is Trent playing right wing? Why is Trent playing up front? Because he just does what he wants in this team, Leon. That's why he does. And the idea that if he was playing that way for Liverpool, people would be screaming at him, get back. But in this team, Carsley gave him the freedom to go out and do whatever he wants because he's that talented. You want him in the dangerous positions. It's like, yeah, that's great in theory, but it only works if you have other people who are in the position that he normally would be, because even a team who ranked 40-something in the world like Greece will know, hang on a minute, if he's there, then that means there's loads of space over there. So if we just put 2 or 3 players there and then every time they lose the ball, we kick it to them, we'll be in. And lo and behold, that happened loads of times in the game.
Standard.
Yeah.
They just watch some old Liverpool DVDs and like, so we can just go down that side.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like, oh, okay, we'll just do that then. Like, sound. But the other thing that made me laugh about the whole thing, though, just watching Carsley's interviews, he's like, it's been interesting because something that struck me was that he's clearly had very little media training and something he's admitted himself. Like, I think what people forget is, like, being in front of a camera. We know this from our lives, that we at a much smaller level. Like, people will say to people like us now, "Oh, you are just naturals at this stuff," and I'm like, no. Go back to the first time we ever did any of this and watch it. It's not good. I still remember the first time I ever did the Anfield rap back all those years ago when they were in a big like warehouse with 12 people around the mic. And the first time Neil went, "And what do you think, Copey?" And I was like,
I'd planned, like, I had my phone, I had about 3 or 4 pages of notes that I'd made for my first show, and I must have used about half a page at most. I must have said about 3 things, because you just get caught swept up in it, and then you have all these things you're definitely going to say, but then it's like, oh, well, wait, well, he said something, and I want to react to that and that. And when you're a manager, and you're someone who's used to imparting your message to players, footballers within football, they have their own language. So they can talk to each other in a way that they'll know that each other will understand. When you're a manager of England, every single word you say, every time you move your lips, every time you wipe your head, there are millions of people out there scrutinising it, particularly, as you say, a fellow like Carsley, who does not naturally look like he belongs at this level. People are waiting to be proven right that, nah, he's not up for this. We need someone better than him. So for him to just be like, oh yeah, we did it for 20 minutes, and it's like, he probably didn't even think about that twice when he said that. And there's probably loads of people behind the camera watching him just going, What did you say that for, mate?
Yeah. And all the, and we've talked about this, about why someone like Southgate is so popular with like the suits. Is that for all his faults and all his problems, Southgate was like a politician, wasn't he? He knew how to handle the press. He knew what to say. He knew what the right things to say were and what he couldn't say, and how to straight bat something and how to give an answer. And Carsley, I've been watching him thinking, fucking hell, mate, I'm not sure you even know what the answer to this question is. Like, the number of times I've seen, and this is the other thing actually, we were talking before we started recording about like Slot and Klopp, my fault in comparing Klopp towards the end with Slot at the beginning, which is just a false comparison, because Slot hasn't got to that 9 years of fucking sick of the same questions yet.
Exactly.
And you mentioned quite rightly Ange Postecoglou. But the thing that those managers have got, which Carsley definitely hasn't, and he's got a bit of the Ten Hags about him for this, is that I've already seen the journalists know they can press him. Do you know in that way that like if a journalist tries to press Postecoglou or Klopp or Guardiola, they get that look. And it's the modern version of the Ferguson, you won't be allowed in my press conferences again.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like Ferguson back in the day, just there was no two like ways about it, was it? You just weren't coming again. So then everyone else was like, well, if I want to stay in the press conference, I have to stay in line. Whereas they can't really do that anymore, because the PR would be awful. So they just do it with a look and a stern answer. And, oh my God, nobody wants to upset Klopp, so don't ask him a question like that. Whereas I've seen with Cars, like the journalist doing that thing where he answers a question and didn't make any sense. So they press him on it, like they do with Ten Hag. And then it just ends up this. Like when you think, the answer to the question, do you want to be England's manager?
Should be
that
really
should
easy.
be quite easy to answer, shouldn't it? I don't know what the answer to that question is. Having listened to him, someone's clearly given him like a politician's type response, which is look, I've been appointed. It's very clear to me. I've been appointed for 3 camps and 6 games, whatever it is, and that's all I'm appointed for, and that's all it is. And then it's like, okay, so do you want to be England manager? Well, I think the England job should be given to someone really experienced who's won things. Oh, okay. So you're ruling yourself out then? No, I'm not ruling myself out. It's not up to me. And you're like, what the fuck, mate? Like, do you want the job? Like, I can imagine even the FA are like, sorry, mate, do you want this fucking job? Like, because at the weekend, my favourite one was like, I'm hoping to go back to the 21s. And you're like, oh, you've clearly gone, I can't be arsed with all this.
Yeah.
Like, maybe at some point in the future, but right now, the under-21s is well better. Exactly what you're saying. I can't be arsed with this scrutiny of whether I wipe my forehead or sing the song or, I
forgot about the singing the song business.
That seems like a lifetime ago already, doesn't it? And that must be what it's like as England manager. It's like, Jesus Christ, what have I said now? It's like, but so I thought he's clearly going, I've had enough of this. And then he got asked to clarify and did the backtracking. You're like, mate, come on.
Yeah.
Do you want the job or not? It's not that hard, is it?
And I don't know whether or not his mind has changed over the course of this. Because, I mean, even the way that people were talking about him has changed dramatically. Because I remember now the whole singing business. But before the line before the Greece game, and the thing I heard time and time again from journalists was, it's his job to lose. It's his job to lose. Now, that's a very different phrase as to saying, it looks like we want him to be the manager. It's a very different thing. It's his job to lose. So now let's sit here and watch him lose it.
Yeah, I love that. That's you're absolutely spot on. It's like, so we'll all just sit around and wait till he loses it to somebody else. And you're like, but it was funny as well, because, and it's interesting to get your view on this, because me and Rob it's one of those topics we agree on. So it's actually less interesting to talk about the stuff you agree on, is it? Apart from for the people who do agree with us, because they get to sit at home going, we agree as well.
Yes.
But it's always nice to talk to someone who's got a different view. So you're more interested in England than us, by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I just saw a clip of Roy Keane and who was with him, Ian Wright, talking about it on the highlights show. And they were like, who should it be? And it actually made me laugh as well, because they named the 3 people in the running are Tuchel, Eddie Howe and Graham Potter. And even like the presenter was like, so not a great list. Like, fucking hell. Talk about offending like 3 top level managers. I know you can argue with Eddie Howe and Potter, but Tuchel's won the fucking Champions League.
And the thing is that they will be watching this. So when one of them inevitably does get the job, they will remember what you said. The thing for me about it is that it needs to be someone who is strong enough to have their own ideas, strong enough to say, look, for the good of the team, you're going to come off the bench. And you know what? You're still going to be really important to this team because you're going to be on the pitch at the end of the game when the game is there still to be won. But that means you're not starting the game.
Yeah.
And someone who's strong enough to say to the media, no, I'm not going to fall for any of your games. This is my philosophy of football. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to let you distract me with nonsense. Now, obviously, hiring a German as the England manager would come with a rather large slice of nonsense from lots of people.
Well, I was just going to ask you about that. So what's your view on it? Because I was like, it's funny that I'll do that thing where I'm like, I'm not arsed. And I'm like, but that's a lie, isn't it? Because I think about it.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm way above not arsed with all this stuff because I was just that I didn't even allow myself to stop and think about it loads. But I thought we'll talk about it on the show. That would be considering there's a camp that says it shouldn't even be allowed to have a non-English manager in charge of the team because it's the England national team. There's a part of me that's like, yeah, actually, there's an element of, isn't this cheating? Like, this is meant to represent your country, so shouldn't everything be from your country? But then it's funny, like how far does that go? Does that mean you can't have a nutritionist from another country? What are we saying here? But we all know historically and politically and geopolitically, there are certain countries we have certain rivalries with. And rivalries to say the least.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? 2 wars and stuff like that. It's like, what would that look like?
So, we've already seen what a guy who represented Ireland, but still, frankly, is very English in Lee Carsley, has got just for not singing the national anthem.
Yeah.
So, if you take that and extrapolate it into a massive amount, as it would be for a German, like there are still, unfortunately, large sections of the England travelling fan base who sing songs about German bombers. Now, whether appointing an England manager would make them stop and think about that, I don't know.
That just crossed my mind. Like, would it be good for English-German relations? Yeah. Or what would those lads do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think their heads might explode. I hope so. Anyway, but I think in a strange way that I don't think when they were talking about Klopp as the England manager, I don't think he would have ever wanted any part of it. I think Tuchel is crazy enough to say, I could take this on. I could do the job well enough that I'm going to look beyond all of that stuff. I'm going to ignore all of that stuff and I'm going to get in there and I'm going to make this team good enough that you will forget about all of that, which would be fascinating to see. I think he could do a good job as the England manager. However, personally, he is one of those people who's never shied away from a battle, whether it's with his own team, whether it's with the guys who employed him, whether it's been with the media. And I've seen many times managers who have not been known when to not fight get kind of bogged down in it all. And I think that he might do well for one cycle, but it would end in tears, personally.
You think?
Yeah. I think Tuchel, he can't get out of his own way. And do
you think he's got a bit of Rafa about him?
Yes,
for that?
very much so.
Yeah.
And as a neutral observer, it's fun to watch. But as someone with, as mentioned, with a vested interest in England, I think it would probably be just too much chaos. But
so would you rather have like an Eddie Howe or Graham Potter?
Graham Potter, for me.
Yeah.
I think he, again, the way that it went with Chelsea was probably a bit of a baptism of fire in terms of a big atmosphere and a big club as they were. And England would have a lot of those same things. What I think he would get at England that he didn't get at Chelsea was more time.
Yeah.
I think if England was to put the England management would say, you're the guy, they're going to give him 2 years and at least. And in those 2 years, he will have time to build his ideas, his philosophy. And I think he's got some really good ideas about football. I think he would be really good. As a tactician, I'd favour him over Eddie Howe personally. But, I mean, what's going to happen? I don't know. Like, there's going to be big clubs who are going to sack their managers in the near future. Hello to our friends in Manchester. And that's going to stir the pot in its own way because some of these people are going to get distracted here and there and everywhere. But
well, I mean, the side issue underneath this, isn't it, is we've been reveling in the Man United stuff recently. But it was really interesting to see Southgate come out last week and say, I'm not going to take a job for a year. Because if you're the United hierarchy, like if you're Ten Hag, you'd be like, oh, yeah, sound. Because that takes the pressure off. I mean, I haven't checked the odds, but I'm sure the odds of Van Nistelrooy, we talked about that last time you were on, the odds of Van Nistelrooy being the next United manager must have been slashed. Absolutely. As soon as Southgate made that announcement. But that's interesting in itself, isn't it? Because as you say, and I thought it was interesting that Pochettino took the States job because I'd have thought he'd still have an eye on the Man United job, but maybe after not getting it last time, he's just been like, they're not going to give it to me. If they're not going to give it to me and they're going to give it to Ten Hag at this point, why would they have changed their tune? But Tuchel, surely he's got his eye on the Man United job, you would think.
I would think that suits him more down to the ground than England personally. I think that they would revel in his combativeness. I think that's exactly what that group needs above and below him. I think they all need a bit of a shake-up. And yes, they've got all these new people up there, but I think that they're all desperate to have someone to lead the way in a way that none of them are really doing right now. And the players absolutely need someone because Ten Hag's done a really good job of basically bringing in loads of fellas who used to play for him. But then again, it's like, does that always work? Or do they just get sick of your voice and stop listening? And I feel like if you've got half a team who are used to him playing and half a team who aren't and are maybe looking at him and saying, what's he on about now? Then that's a really bad mix.
Yeah, do you know what? That's a great point, mate, because I'd never thought of that. That it's funny, isn't it? You don't really see Guardiola and Klopp bringing ex-players in. Klopp made a point of not doing it, didn't he? Like, because when he came from Dortmund, he could have picked up a couple of those players easily.
Yep.
And I remember at the time him going, well, you're not appreciating how good these lads are. And everyone was like, fuck off. Adam Lallana's
so
not as good
we watched some more than you did, mate.
Yeah. Are you joking? And he was like, what? You don't know how good I am yet? Like, watch what I'm going to do with Bobby Firmino. I'm like, nah, shit right winger, too slow. I'm like, oh. But that's it. That's a really interesting point because I wonder if they get the feeling after they've coached someone for a few years. It's like, yeah. I can't bring them in now because they're like, mate, we've heard you say this thousands of times.
Exactly.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because at least Klopp and Guardiola are not bringing players with them, and they've been really successful with them. Whereas Ten Hag, you can imagine. Well, my point is here, they were successful in the past, and then they're already running a successful team. Ten Hag has players who'd be like, oh yeah, we were successful in the Dutch league, but then even then maybe they were like questioning things, and then they come into United. Wonder how quickly they go, oh no, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
Because other players who are playing at Man United are like, is he full of shit? And they're like, I'm not sure actually. I think he might be. It seems like he is, doesn't it? Did you ever do this at Ajax where you were winning and you just conceded goals from nowhere? And like, yeah, actually. People forget this, don't you? Like the famous Champions League semi-final with Spurs.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
You're like, oh, we've
you
seen
lot,
this
wasn't
before.
It?
Yeah.
And also the new players who are coming in, like the manager's bringing them in because he's thinking that they're going to be loyal to him. But they also got to survive in that dressing room. And they've seen the way football works. And they're looking around at the Bruno Fernandes, your Rashfords, your Garnachos. You're thinking, well, these are going to be here longer than him. So I want these to be on my side more than I need you to be on my side. So when they're asking me about you and they're angry about you, am I going to be like, actually, no, he's all right, give him time? Or they're going to be like, well, you should have seen what you got up to when we were there. And try to kind of ingratiate themselves to the rest of the dressing room. Yeah. And then suddenly the plan is entirely backfired. But I do think that there's definitely something about a manager who, if you're saying the same thing too much, or if you're trying to do things a certain way, then it just stops working. So if you think about Alex Ferguson, his main trick was he would refresh his assistant coaches. So he'd bring in Steve McLaren or Carlos Queiroz or someone else to come in and be the voice on the training pitch, the one doing the shouting. The same way that Klopp did with Pep Linders. Like, towards the end, Pep Linders was the one on the training pitch most of the time doing the shouting, doing the moving around. So it was like, they weren't so getting sick of Klopp's voice. He would kind of come in and do the motivational points, the key messaging times he'd come in, but it wouldn't be all day, every day, 24 hours of Klopp, because you do get sick of it. And also the other good thing that Liverpool had in that period is your Milners and your Hendersons. And now, to a certain extent, your Van Dijk, your Robertson, your Alisson, the players are now giving the message rather than having to be the manager. So then they are maintaining those values. So again, it's not the same voice. You're not getting sick of the same thing. Whereas I think if you're someone who's always wanting to rely on people you know and trust, then it's implicitly sending out a message to say that your message isn't translating to everybody. You're having to go back to the same people you know it worked on. And then eventually it's going to stop working on them as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at the comments here. A couple of people have raised, going back to the England thing, which we should mention. I don't, as you said, I don't think even talking about Klopp as a even remotely viable candidate, especially given what we're going to go on to, that he's taking a new job. But a few people, and Roy Keane mentioned it on telly actually, Pep Guardiola, and did you see that he actually, and the typical thing of like gave an interview to Italian press or something at the weekend and didn't rule anything in or out for Man City future and for England future and all the rest of it. It was just very much a straight battered, let's see what happens. What would you think of him? Would you want him as England manager?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I think he look, there's nothing that he doesn't like. He loves the challenge. He loves the challenge, and he believes that he can get a tune out of everybody. And what has been the biggest thing that people have thrown at him? Oh, well, he's always been with the best team. Oh, well, he's always had loads of money to spend. Oh, well, he's always had the deck stacked in his favour. Well, he wouldn't with England. Like, he wouldn't at all, because obviously Spain are currently the best team. France have got the deepest squad. You could say England might be one of the richest international countries, and they'd certainly be able to pay his salary quite well. He'd certainly it wouldn't have to make a pay cut from City, put it that way. But he wouldn't be favourites to do anything automatically. And that, like we were saying before about the conundrum of how to get Bellingham and Foden and now Cole Palmer and Saka all in the same team, all functioning well, and Declan Rice to get them to play at his best rather than just being the man holding the shop going, where's everyone going? He would love that challenge. But, and I say this as a big but, if City have been charged and thrown out of the league in disgrace, etc., 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 that makes it a little bit more difficult for him to just be like, I'm just going to sidestep over here to this other job in the same country. I think if that happens, he's probably going to want to leave England, at least for a little while. But I think you can appeal to his sense of adventure, his ego, and his wage packet.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's interesting as well, isn't it? Because similar to Klopp, and we are going to come on to talk about Klopp's new job. I always think this, and I think everyone will have chatted about this at different times when he announced he was going to leave Liverpool. It's that thing of like, well, where do you go next? If you're going to take another job in club football, Guardiola has managed Barcelona, so that rules him out of the Real Madrid job.
Yeah.
Almost certainly. Like, I mean, considering he played for Barca and managed them and was legendary for them. I know never say never in football, but the chance of him taking that, I would say, is slim. He's already managed the best team in Germany, so he's not going to go back there. He's managed what is currently the dominant and best team in England, so he's not going to manage another club side in England.
No.
So where are his options left? Like, is he actually going to go to Italy? I can't picture him going there. I don't think it's enough of a challenge for him, as you say about that part of his life. So I've gone from thinking there's no chance of that to you never know though. Like, even just as you go through that process, it's like, well, one day he will be Spain manager, but he might even think, well, I could be England manager to practice how to be an international manager, because one day I'll be Spain's manager, and there's a bigger challenge being England's manager, actually, because they've won nothing since 1966. So imagine if I could be the guy that wins them something. What a thing to add to your collection. Plus what you said, it is fun. Obviously we mentioned before we started recording, we're going to talk about Elon Musk at some point, but it's probably going to be on the Patreon show. And whenever I talk about Elon Musk, I'm always ready for people to shout abuse at me for whatever, even just saying his name. The people already criticise me for saying his name. But I've said this about Guardiola in the past, like, with all the cheating stuff and the money stuff and all the rest of it. It's like, I know, but I still don't think enough of us go, yeah, but Chelsea have spent shitloads and United have spent shitloads. They still haven't created the greatest team we've seen, the most dominant team of a generation.
Yeah.
Like, what Guardiola does with footballers and football teams is phenomenal. So I think there must still be that part of him that's like, I don't get the credit I deserve.
No. And I think that's a really important point, and that gets lost in the whole City thing as well, is that two things can be true. You can say that, City's money has created an unfair advantage. Sure. But that unfair advantage is being able to get Guardiola. That is the advantage. It's not, they can buy players that Man United can't. Man United have spent more money on players. I think Man United's highest transfer outlay fees on individual players. If you take away the 100 million for Jack Grealish, I don't think City has spent more than 65 million on any player. And United have had, 4 or 5 in that category, so they're willing to go above. Yeah. Chelsea have obviously got Caicedo and Fernandes, who are both north of 100. So they're willing to go beyond. But it's not just about spending the money, it's how you spend the money. And City's whole plan, like, you could save pretty much from 10 years maybe beforehand. So, like, from the minute Mancini wasn't working out, they were starting to look at Guardiola. Like, they told Pellegrini when he signed, we're trying to get Guardiola, and when that day comes, you're out on your ass. So they then brought in all of the sporting directors from Barca, all of his friends, Ferran Soriano, Tiki Stein, all those guys. They basically laid the groundwork, and then they were basically signing players who they're, I'm sure Guardiola will like him. Like, we haven't spoken to him, but I'm sure he'll like him, and like all that kind of stuff. They basically laid his nest, ready for him to fly into it and sit down. Like, that's what the money bought. You have to have the people who can do it properly. And I think that his quality as a manager is often lost in it, because it's really easy for us all to dismiss City as just being cheaters. And look, the cheating part is important. Like, we can't just ignore it. Yeah. But equally, they would not have been as successful as they have been without him. And I think that he, as a football brain, can translate it to something else. You always hear about him saying, Pep Guardiola could manage Wigan Athletic. Well, let's see. Let's see what you can do with it. Imagine if that's
the next move. Imagine if, like, his challenge is to basically go to the likes of Sam Allardyce. Fuck you. Watch this. I can. I'm going to take Wigan, or I'm going to take Bolton.
Salford? I'm sure Salford FC would be the one. Can you imagine?
Imagine. Do you know what? If I was involved with one of those clubs at a senior level, I'd be listening to this going, let's sell it to him as a challenge. Yeah. I'd like goad him. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Go to him, you couldn't do it. Like we do with our 4-year-old. Like we go to him, we just don't think you could get ready faster than your big brother. I can. Watch me. Just start sending messages going, you couldn't manage Wigan. You just couldn't. You wouldn't be good enough. You wouldn't be able to do it at this level without the money, without Messi. And watch him go like, fucking could, watch me. Imagine if we see that's how the FA start trying to get him.
And then suddenly they sign Messi on a free from Inter Milan, and we're like, oh shit.
Yeah. Imagine that. Who's he playing for now? Wigan. to end his career. Imagine the lads playing him. Like, oh, for fuck's sake, are you Messi? Yeah. Guardiola's the manager and Messi's playing in front of him. Yeah. Sadly, he's getting Busquets in next. Like, yeah, well, they're too old. Yeah. If you like that story, I remember Robbo's mate. Well, you'll know him as well through being at the press conferences. Tony Barrett. I always remember him telling a story that I heard third hand from somewhere, but telling the story about like Joe playing a 5-a-side game behind the scenes at the club, and he marked Kenny Dalglish, and Kenny was like 70. So do you know, like he went into the game being like, oh, I'm not, I won't kick him because he's an old fella. It's like, didn't get fucking near him the whole game. Kenny's just like dropping a shoulder. Yeah. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you're 70. It's like, yeah, but you're shit. Exactly. And I was one of the best players in the world. So that you don't lose that.
No, especially when you had it all up here anyway.
That's exactly it. Well, look, we've managed to talk for about 40 minutes about something I didn't even intend to talk about, which is why I love having the likes of Mo and Rob coming in, because they just fit right into the TLC talking nonsense thing. But I do want to talk about Klopp. And before we do that, there's some updates we need to go through. So I'm going to quickly do them. As you know, Robbo and I are shit at admin, and we said we were doing this fantasy football competition. And I said to Robbo last week, it's October, and we haven't announced who won in September. And he was like, oh yeah. And we still didn't. So it's the middle of October now. I've checked, and fortunately on the website, we can find out who won the most points each month easily through a drop-down menu. So thank you, Fantasy Football website. But we're going to do it as the cricket thing, because otherwise I've got to go through the top 10 and find out which is our top subscriber in there. And I haven't got time for that. So here's the top 8 that I was going to read out the top 10, but then realised the screenshot I took was only the top 9.
Eight's a nice round number.
This admin is just... so here's the top 8 right quickly. If you are one of these people and you want to claim the win for September, email us, get in touch through the website, message us. Whoever is the highest placed person who claims it, like cricket, you have to claim it or you don't get it. Whoever's the highest placed who claims it by the end of the week will win £100. So the highest ranked team for the month, remember it's just for the month, it's not cumulative, so it gives everyone a chance every month, got 213 points. The Lecky Siders, Steve Everett. Number 2 was Viva, Jason Brooks. Justin Ling, who sent us that amazing photo a couple of weeks ago. Timu Tiki Taki Tracky, love your name, mate. We'll come on to that in a minute. Ninja Skirtles, another great name. Number 4, Daniel O'Brien. Mersey Paradise, William Dunn is 5th. 6th, AC Millen, Tom Millen. 7, Hit and Hope FC, Sue Denham. And 8, Slots of Fun, Colin Rowe. You are the top 8 for September. Whoever is the highest ranked, who claims and was also a subscriber at the start of September, you win £100, but you've got to get in touch and claim. Remember, if you want to join, you can play all season. And as I say, it's whoever gets the most points in a month, so you can win every month. Doesn't matter how shit you are, like me, which we won't get into because we haven't got time.
Strange that.
Yeah. We've talked enough about how shit I am at fantasy football. I was going to mention to you, are you into it? But we're running out of time for this. So I'll put the link. There's going to be lots of links below this show. The link to join, because people keep asking us where it is. The link to join and the code are going to be below the show. The other 2 other things I wanted to mention, which are together. We might talk more about this one in the next thing. I've dropped in and mentioned I've been doing a stand-up comedy course, and it's a 6-week course. And the last night you do a gig at Hot Water Comedy, and I was going to miss it. I thought I was going to miss it, but my plans have changed. So I'm now going to be there. It's Thursday, the 24th of October. So I'll be doing my first ever 10 minutes of stand-up that night with 3 other beginners, and they throw on some other proper comedians, not us, beginners talking nonsense. But if you want to come down to that show and see my first ever 10 minutes, there's going to be a link underneath this show for that as well. I think it's a £5. But remember, I will only be on for 10 minutes, so I won't be offended if none of you turn up. And I am thinking of doing something longer before the end of the year, but I'll talk about that more, which ties me into our 100th show, which is something I'm going to chat to Mo about separately as well. We mentioned this last week and the week before. I calculated our 100th show falls just after Christmas. So Saturday, the 28th of December, we are thinking about doing a live show to mark the occasion. We would do it in town. We would do it at Blackstock, Hot Water Comedy. They've got rooms there we could do it in, but we need to know whether any of you would be interested in coming. We appreciate it's that time of the year where it could be the best time, it could be the worst time, because everyone's skint after Christmas and everyone might be knackered after Christmas. But also there's no Liverpool game that day, and there's nothing really to do in between Christmas and New Year, is that? So I've just created a 1-question survey monkey, which is, again, the link is underneath this, and it's funny because I've put would you come, yes or no? And then I thought, But there's no need you to click. We don't need you to click on the link and click no. We don't. If you don't want to come, we'll just assume you're not going to come. I'm actually going to do a bit on this at some point in comedy. Like the number of times I'm reading things on Amazon lately. Do when you read the reviews and someone like goes, "Yeah, it turned up on time, 5 stars." I'm like, I don't give a like. I don't want you to review how good Amazon is at delivering stuff. I'm interested in how good the product was. 5 stars, haven't used it yet. We'll do another review once I've used it. Well, there's no need for this fucking... There's no need for this one. I don't need to know about that. Same with this. So if you don't want to come, don't bother clicking the link. But if you've got an answer other than yes or no, I have put other, just in case you've got some amazing feedback to give us.
Sounds dangerous, that, by the way.
I know. I think I just do that for my own entertainment to see what people write in that box. So all kinds of links underneath this show. We haven't got long left now, but we are going to start talking about Jurgen Klopp. And then we will continue that conversation into the Patreon show. We will talk about what's coming up for Liverpool in the Patreon show. We will also talk about Elon Musk and a big week he's had, which Mo was saying he hadn't seen until I sent him this, and he's had a look, and he's like, fucking hell, it's a bit mad, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah. It's a bit mad. So you should come over and watch us do that in a bit, because it is a bit mad. The world we're about to all live in, which I was chatting about this the other day, saying to my girlfriend, we are going to be those people going to our grandkids. Do you know when we were kids, we didn't all have a robot just wiping our arse, you know? And they'd be like, what? How did you live without a robot wiping your arse? You're like, we had to wipe our own arses. It's like, what? I can't even comprehend that world. You're like, well...
My hand doesn't even reach that far.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine that. All of our arms have shortened because now we have Biotron or whatever he's called wiping our asses. This is off topic already. We're going to be talking about that. Let's start talking about Jurgen Klopp, and then we'll carry it on over on Patreon. So, for those of you who don't know, if you've been under a rock, Jurgen Klopp has taken a new job and announced it, and it's upset some people. Isn't it funny when like you see something and to you it's just like, oh. And then you see like, oh, yeah, I see. And there are bits I'm like, yeah, I sort of see that, you know. So in case you didn't know, Jurgen Klopp is going to take on the new role as head of global soccer at Red Bull, starting on the 1st of January. Blah, blah, blah. He's going to, in his new position, this is the announcement, in his new position, the charismatic German will oversee Red Bull's international network of soccer clubs. He's not going to be involved in the club's day-to-day operations, blah, blah, blah. Klopp said, after almost 25 years on the sideline, I couldn't be more excited to get involved in a project like this. The role may have changed, but my passion for football and the people who make the game what it is has not. By joining Red Bull at a global level, I want to develop, improve and support the incredible football talent that we have at our disposal. There are many ways that we can do this, from using the elite knowledge and experience that Red Bull possesses to learning from other sports and other industries, blah, 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 all that stuff. I just had a look, because Dortmund fans especially, some aren't very happy. And we'll have a chat about it. I want to hear what you've got to say. But you know, in reading about it, I didn't know the RB Leipzig story fully until I just read this summary. And my favourite bit about it, which I didn't realise, was because this isn't the favourite bit, they've got around the 50+1 rule in Germany. They only have 17 members with voting rights, which is how they can do the thing they're doing, which is basically, do you know when you go, sorry, how has no one thought of doing that in Germany before? That was the first thing. But the second thing was, I didn't realise there's a law in Germany stating that teams must not be named after sponsors. So did you know this? RB doesn't stand for Red Bull. It stands for Rasenballsport Leipzig, which translates as Lawn Ball Sport Leipzig. So RB is not Red Bull.
But it is. It's not.
Exactly. Which I was like, oh, that's clever, isn't it? But then the next part of the BBC article in which I read that said, RB are often referred to as the most hated club in Germany.
Yes.
You're like, oh yeah, okay. And Dortmund fans have literally protested against them and boycotted games and done all kinds.
Yeah.
We'll do this, and then we are gonna have to go over in a couple of minutes to Patreon. But let's get your first initial thought. What do you think about it?
I knew a lot about the hatred towards the Red Bull group from beforehand, because I do watch a lot of German football. I do still do the European show for Anfield Wrap. I was actually recording an episode of the European show on the day that dropped with Musa Okwonga. And it was weird because if you think about Klopp and the way he sees football and the traditionalist he's always appeared to be, this appears to be the furthest away from that he could have possibly got. Yeah. Like, he's literally signed up for Darth Vader FC. Yeah. And, I mean, there's part of me that's like, well, really, are there any good guys left in football at all? Like, really? So you have to kind of weigh that up against it. But still, I'm a little bit like, I wish he hadn't joined them, mate, honestly. But, I mean, as we'll get to, the more I'm learning about this, the more I'm seeing about what it is he's actually going to be doing. I don't know how much he's actually going to be doing. It feels to me like he's going to be a figurehead who they're going to occasionally call up to kind of, what's your ideas about this? What's your ideas about this? Oh, he's going to be going to do influence from other sports. So he's just going to be going on a jolly to go and see some American football team and be like, I wonder if your training could be like our training. I'll come and spend 2 days with you. Yeah, it's not the same as if he was going to be on the touchline managing them. I think we have to manage that. But I still would have rather he done something else in my heart of hearts.
Do you know what came up for me then? Is it worse? Do you know what I mean? Because if he was only managing RB Leipzig, for example, he would only be helping RB Leipzig, which is, if there's a moral issue around it and all the rest of it and all this stuff that everyone is a bit like, it's a bit icky, this, I think. Yeah. But he's actually helping the entire organisation, which stands for, as you say, the opposite of what he stood for, surely.
He's anti-multi-club ownership more than once.
Yeah. There was an interesting quote, actually, from him, but it was funny because it's being used as like to throw against me. And I was like, well, because here it is. Klopp has also been critical of the multi-club model, saying in 2017, I'm a football romantic and I like tradition in football and all that stuff. In Germany, only 2 clubs sing You'll Never Walk Alone before the game, and that's Mainz and Dortmund. I'm not sure what that last part has got to do with anything. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, they're the most romantic clubs because they sing You'll Never Walk Alone. But the first bit, I'm a football romantic and I like tradition in football and all that stuff. Well, all that stuff, Jurgen, surely means not backing the massive capitalist corporate monster that is Red Bull.
And that's even before you get into the individual politics of, more the old owner who passed Dietrich Mateschitz than his son Mark. But if you look at the history of his TV channel, Service TV, you could almost argue that it was the Austrian version of GB News.
Oh.
Considering some of the people they've put on there. Like, there's a guy called Martin Sellner, who is basically like Farage on steroids. Like he wanted to sign a bill that would basically deport millions of immigrants from Austria.
Oh,
like, he really went hard on it. And he was on Service TV a lot. So these are the kind of things that people in Germany are now talking about. Because I understand the focus has been on Dortmund fans because they've been the most vocal about Leipzig in general. Mm-hmm. But this is more than just the Dortmund fans who are upset. It seems like everybody, one of the few things that everyone in Germany agrees on is that we all hate them. Because like you say, it's clever and no one had thought of that. But it was almost like it wouldn't have even occurred to them to think of that because they're all bought into it.
They're not trying to break the rules.
No, so a really good example, Wolfsburg, right? Wolfsburg is basically a town that was started by Volkswagen for all of the people who worked in the factory. That's basically how the town started. And the football team was the team of that. So they're a legacy club. So the link between Wolfsburg and Volkswagen is allowed because they literally started the whole team back in, they call it legacy club. So they are able to circumnavigate that, but they do it the proper way. Whereas these lot have just come in there, thrown a lot of money at a tiny team from nowhere, and suddenly they're now in the Champions League. And it's like, it feels a little bit like the difference between United and Liverpool and then Man City and Chelsea, but just on a bigger scale. And I honestly, I don't know how he's going to transition from this to being Jeremy manager. I think he's going to make it a little bit harder for himself.
Well, hold that thought, right? Because we're going to continue talking about this, like in EastEnders, like dun, dun, dun. I've never thought I'd compare our show to EastEnders until that moment when it came into my brain and I said it out loud. But yeah, we're going to carry on talking about this, but we've run out of time on the free show. If you want to come over and watch the rest of this chat, which I think you should, if you haven't already signed up for Patreon, there is a free trial, so you can watch it for free, including 70 odd back episodes that a few people have emailed me this week saying they're working their way through and they love them. And we're on to a winner and it's great. I'm like, thanks very much. That's good feedback. So yeah, that's the sales pitch. As people have said to us in the past, you're not very good at the marketing side. We're like, no, we're not. We're not very good at the admin side, but we are very good at talking shit into a camera, which we've been practicing for years, as you know. So come over and join us there. There will be another link. There's loads of fucking links today, aren't there? Check out all the links below. They're not actually there yet. If you're watching this live, don't be asking me where the links are because I'm going to do them once we stop recording. But the link will be there. Come and see us. Come and join us there. We'll be there in 5 or 10 minutes once we've had a wee and got a new drink. And we'll carry on talking about this. We're going to talk about what's coming up for Liverpool. We're going to talk about the robots that are going to wipe our arse and some other bits if we've got time. Thank you for joining us as always. Thank you for all your lovely comments. For Robbo, I will pass them on. Please contact him direct. Send us emails if you want to send any messages to him directly. And thank you for your support as always. Thank you for following. Thank you for sharing this with your friends and family. Thank you to Mo for jumping in as co-host as always. And we'll see you next week. Take care of yourselves.